Production funding for Sports Files is made possible in part by
Infinity of Memphis has moved to Germantown Road, just half-mile north of Wolf Chase Galleria, and is proud to support WKNO for its quality broadcasting and service to our community. Quality and service? No wonder Infinity of Memphis feels at home on WKNO.
the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Today on Sports Files, we'll explore the history of pro wrestling in the Bluff City through the film Memphis Heat, as we talk with a few of the people responsible for the movie and the legacy. Late last week, we took our Sports Files camera to the Paradiso in East Memphis to relive a little history. Ironically, on the opening night of the Superman vs. Batman motion picture, we wanted to chat with some other larger-than-life figures. Only these guys are real. It was the 5-year anniversary of the documentary film Memphis Heat, which chronicles pro wrestling in the Bluff City. The film was being re-released with a new soundtrack containing all Memphis artists, and many of the movers and shakers behind the creation of the film were back to reminisce and to showcase Memphis wrestling to a new generation. The creators of the documentary, co-executive producers Sherman Wilmot and Ron Hall, were there. There was also the man who helped elevate pro wrestling in Memphis from a novelty to a phenomenon, Jerry Jarrett, who would take the reins and provide a proving ground for relative unknown wrestlers. Unknowns who would go on to become megastars in the business, names such as Hulk Hogan and Jerry Lawler. There was also superstar Bill Dundee, Jackie Fargo, Sputnik Monroe, and Jimmy Hart. Today, a look back at Memphis Heat, the history of pro wrestling in Memphis. And it's next on Sports Files. Jerry, we're here for Memphis Heat. It's being redistributed. It's being shown after it came out 5 years ago. Did the movie do what you experienced justice?
Yes, I was very happy with the movie. I think it, as much as a movie can recapture the factual history, I think they did a good job.
Memphis wrestling is a phenomenon. I mean, people still to this day talk about the times they were at this particular match or the times they were at that particular match. Why did it become a staple, a fabric of this community?
Well, I think that the fact that we were the first entertainment sports franchise in Memphis, before basketball, before football. And then the other thing is that we captured the imagination with our storytelling. And I've always said that good wrestling is Shakespeare for the masses. It's a play, and the actors are the wrestlers, and it's played out on the stage, which is our four-sided ring. And I think that the reality of our wrestling, and I know that sounds funny, but we encouraged our wrestlers to not play a role other than to play themselves. And I think this realism captured their imagination.
The influence. Let's talk about the influence. We now see professional wrestling all around the world for many, many years. What type of an influence did wrestling here in Memphis have on that product?
Well, for the people that know the history of Memphis wrestling, for a time, not now, currently, but for a time, every star that made it to the national stage, from Hulk Hogan to Sting to Ultimate Warrior to Jerry Lawler to Jimmy Hart to Jim Cornette, and the list goes on and on and on. They began their careers here in Memphis, and there was a reason for that. We were not socioeconomically able to compete with the Vern Gagnes in the Midwest, Chicago, or the New York Northeast. So we had to give newcomers a break and help them to become stars. And of course, as soon as they became stars, the grass is greener, so they left. But this was good for us because it kept us a turnover of fresh new talent.
This is where they cut their teeth, right here in Memphis, started to make a name for themselves. And then, of course, as you mentioned, the money is more in other places, went on to the WCW, the WWE. You've had the experience of dealing with all these guys. You just rattled off a bunch of the names. Other than your son, Jeff Jarrett, who are the 2 or 3 favorite wrestlers that you've dealt with over your career?
Well, Jerry Lawler, who later became my partner, as I've told everybody, is the best talent I ever worked with. Mm-hmm. He could wrestle in the ring. He could give an interview like nobody else. And he's still doing that as a commentator for WWE. But various wrestlers had various unique ability. Hulk Hogan, what he lacked in physical prowess as far as athletic ability, he made up for in charisma. Same with the Ultimate Warrior. Sting, different. He was a very good wrestler and he could tell a story. Randy Macho Man Savage he projected like nobody else. And, you know, Jimmy Cornette was the mama's boy manager that people hated. Jimmy Hart, on the other hand, was the mouth of the South that people enjoyed hating. So what we did is we kept a great mixture of personalities. And because we discouraged them from playing a role other than themselves, God made us each unique in our own way. And so there's only one Jerry Lawler and there's only one Hulk Hogan. And I think that's the reason we had the phenomenal success we did.
There's only one Jerry Jarrett. Congratulations. You put a lot of smiles on faces of people not only in Memphis but around the country. Congratulations on a great career.
Thank you so much.
Well, Sherman, congratulations on the re-release of the movie. 5 years ago it came out. A lot of wrestling fans here in the Mid-South certainly enjoyed the movie. Why now re-release it?
Well, we just had such a great run with Malco throughout the South 5 years ago when it came out, and it's kind of a timeless film. It's Memphis wrestling. People in Memphis love it. They passed it on to their kids, the next generation, and a lot of the younger kids didn't really grow up with this era of the 70s and 80s. And we also wanted to re-release the soundtrack to the film, which is all recorded here by Doug Easley, one of the top producers here in Memphis. So it just seemed like a good tie-in with Malco and the 5th anniversary.
And that's your connection. You're in the music industry, so it works perfectly.
Absolutely. This is the first LP we've ever been able to release that was actually recorded in Memphis and manufactured here in Memphis at the new record pressing plant up in Bartlett.
All right, take me back. Obviously, it was released 5 years ago. When did the project start, and why did it start?
It started as a collaboration with Ron Hall, my co-executive producer. He put out several books, including Garage Rock, and then he put out Sputnik, Masked Men, and Midgets, great little coffee table book with a lot of old programs and photos of the wrestlers. And I said, hey, let's get a little documentary going, promote the book. We brought in Chad Schaffler, our director, and Chad took it and ran with it and really made it into one of the top documentaries on wrestling that's ever been done.
What's been the response generally once the movie came out and even to this day from wrestling fans about the movie?
Wrestling fans love it. We had 2 goals in mind with the film. One was to make wrestling fans have some good nostalgia for when it was the #1 TV show here in Memphis. And 2 was explain how great Memphis wrestling was to people who never grew up here in Memphis, never were around here when Jerry Lawler and Andy Kaufman and Superstar Dundee and everyone was selling out the Coliseum every Monday night. It just was an incredible time to be here in Memphis every week.
Why do you think the people, not only of Memphis, the entire Mid-South, but then eventually around the country and then around the world, why did they fall in love with professional wrestling?
Wrestling is just a soap opera for the masses, and here in Memphis we had some groundbreaking performers and promoters. Mr. Jerry Jarrett, who's with us tonight, they did things here in Memphis they weren't able to do elsewhere. They did scaffold matches for the first time. They used a lot of interesting gimmicks. Jerry Lawler used fire. They incorporated music with the wrestling, and they would sell records at the events. It was just an incredible promotion, and they were the best at what they did, and that's why a lot of these guys like Jimmy Hart and Jerry Lawler ended up in the WWE because they were so good at what they do.
A lot of the former wrestlers, and some, like in the case of Jerry Lawler, still performing. Were they easy to work with when you approached them to talk to them about the movie?
Unbelievably professional. These guys make a living entertaining people and telling good stories, and it translates to the big screen, which is why the film remains popular to this day, because you can't beat people like Len Rossi and Billy Wicks and Sputnik Monroe and Jerry Lawler and Jimmy Hart when it comes to storytelling.
Also, it's amazing how many big-name wrestlers throughout the years started in Memphis. It seemed like everybody did.
Not only was it financially successful, it was a really groundbreaking place to get started here. People like Austin Idol would come through here. Hulk Hogan got his start here. It was just a place where people cut their teeth. Soul Man Rocky Johnson was one of the top wrestlers here in Memphis. His son, The Rock, got his start here in Memphis up in Frazier when it was just at the flea market. So, I mean, that's humble beginnings for the biggest movie star in the world.
Well, congratulations not only on a terrific movie, but now being re-released for the masses to see again. It's a fantastic job you guys all did.
Oh, thank you. It's just been a great ride, and we're so happy to share the film with Memphians once again.
Bill, it's great to have you here. It's great to see you. 5 years ago, this movie comes out about Memphis wrestling. What did you think when the movie came out?
Well, I don't know. It was when Ron and them got hold of us, they had done a lot of footage on Mr. Guy Coffey and Buddy Wayne. I thought it was the story of Buddy Wayne and Guy Coffey when it first started. I mean, I don't know if they didn't have anybody else to talk to, but to talk to them for half the friggin' movie. But I don't know. It's a documentary. I mean, I lived it, so what can you say?
So you don't think there was enough about you and other wrestlers?
Yeah, well, and Sputnik Monroe and Billy Wicks and all them, but the two that did the most talking was Guy Coffey and Buddy Wayne, and bless their heart, they ain't here now, so we don't want to be knocking them, but I mean, for what it was good.
When did it start for you? When did you start wrestling?
1964 in Australia, but I came to America in 1975 with George Barnes and I, and we were the bad guys, I guess, and we got over like a house on fire, and George got homesick and went home, and I stayed, and here we are.
What was it like in Australia wrestling?
Well, it was a kind of lot different. There was more English style. They did rounds when we wrestled in the leagues clubs over there, and they did rounds like 1 to 6 rounds or 1 to 12 rounds, like a boxing match. And every 3 minutes they'd ring the bell. You'd have a minute to rest, and then you'd start again. And here it was more kicking and punching and stuff like that. We did a lot more wrestling in Australia, like the British style, and
Right.
And like Billy Robertson, Tony Charles. That's why if you ever see a match with me and Tony Charles, it's pretty good because we can both do the English style wrestling. But I enjoy the American style.
Where did Superstar come from?
Long story. 1976, there was a gentleman came in here, and I'd known him from Australia with the Jim Barnett Championship Wrestling days, Big Bad John, and he was a bad guy here. So in 1976, Jerry Jarrett, who was the promoter, and I think you talked to him earlier, he said, hey, this is the bicentennial year of America. So he said to Big Bad John, you've always been a bad guy here, so you need to be a good guy. And he dressed him in red, white, and blue and a big hat, like, you know, a big top hat. So he called him the Bicentennial Baby. So he teamed him up with me. John wasn't the greatest wrestler in the world, but he was big and he could talk. And if you could do both, if you was big and could talk, that was a kind of a in-the-door thing. So I could wrestle, and they put us together. So he said, if I'm going to be the Bicentennial Baby, you're going to have a name too. And I said, oh, I'm quite happy with Bill Dundee. He said, no, told Lance Russell. He said, Lance Russell, when you see this man from now on, you call him Superstar Bill Dundee. And that's how it started. So Big Bad John gave it to me. Now, in today's crop of wrestlers, they just invent names. They call themselves this and that. And nobody seems to have a real name. I mean, at least Jerry the King Lawler, Bill Superstar Dundee, we were two real guys with just the moniker names, but they have all kinds of goofy names now, and they don't use their own, or I don't know why they don't, but and everything's changed. Movies have changed, but back to the thing, I enjoyed the video.
You're right, real name and then a nickname, and they use aliases now. You never know their real name. So why do you think, and especially here in Memphis, pro wrestling took off so much? People love this.
Well, Jerry, you got to give a lot of credit to Jerry Jarrett. When Nick Goulas had it, Goulas Welsh, it wasn't on fire when they did it. They were promoter. Then Jerry Jarrett was very good at what he did. He could look at a wrestler and say, well, we'll do this with you, we'll do that with you. And he did it with me. You know, from the day one when I got here, his mother told him, he said, Jerry, that guy should be a good guy. I said, no, I don't want to be a good guy. But anyway, eventually a year later when George went home, they switched me, good guy, and they had to banish Lawler, or he left, and then he came back. And he says, who does that little guy think he is? You know, here comes Lawler, the king, to get his kingdom back. And I said, well, I ain't giving it back to you without a fight time thing. So Jerry Jarrett put me and Lawler together, tag team, or in the ring against one another. It clicked. The people liked it, and that had a lot to do why they bought tickets to come see it every Monday all around the territory.
Looking back at your days, all those years that you wrestled, and good guy, bad guy, grudges, no grudges, just thinking back to the guys you wrestled, who did you respect? Give me a couple of guys who you respected the most inside that ring.
Well, I mean, I think we all respected one another back in the day. It's a different, and I hate to say that the guys today is not as good as they are. Like we said, 5-star Dustin Starr, he's very good. He could have made it back in the good old days.
Right.
And you know, and there's a bunch around. Alan Steele, Derek King. That I have a lot of respect for them. But back in the good old days, if you drew money, you have to, that you didn't have to like them. I mean, Jerry Lawler and I didn't break bread every day or go over to one another's house, but we was very good in the ring together, whether we was wrestling one another or we was on the same side as a tag team. The people bought a ticket to see us, and Jerry Jarrett knew that, so he would just let us do what we did Saturday mornings, and we got over for from 75 to 95. It was the Lawler Dundee show type thing with a few other people thrown in. Handsome Jimmy Valiant, Austin Idol, Joe LeDuc, Jean-Louis, Billy Robinson, Tony Charles. Them people came and went, but Lawler and Dundee were the mainstays. We stayed, so.
What's your, if you can pick one, your one favorite match of all time that you were involved in?
Oh, I had there's a lot, because when I wrestled Billy Robinson, it was wrestling matches. Tony Charles, wrestling matches. But I would have to say, the first one when Jerry Lawler wrestled Bill Dundee with Bill Dundee's wife's hair on the line, that was unique. Now it's ex-wife, but that's another story.
You got to fight for her honor. Yeah. Okay, one final thing for you, Superstar. What do you want to be remembered most for?
Oh, I don't know, just a little guy who was told he couldn't make it in this business and went all the way to the top. I mean, I booked this territory for Jerry Jarrett. I went over to Charlotte and helped Dusty Rhodes book Charlotte. I went to Ted Turner, WCW, and I worked in the office there and was the booker. Then I went to Louisiana. Jerry Jarrett invited Bill Watts up here, and he hired me to go to Louisiana, and I was there for 2 years, and it was the best 2 years Louisiana ever did. Now, it wasn't just me. The Ricky and Robert, the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express with Dennis Conry and Bobby Eaton and Jimmy Cornette, they clicked. So when I took them down there, I was the booker. And here is the other thing that people don't really remember or don't think of today. The puppet only dances as good as the puppeteer. Mm-hmm. So if the guy in the back ain't doing what's right, I don't care who you are. You're not going to draw no money. So you have to trust one another. They trusted me and I trusted them. And it was the best 2 years Louisiana ever had in 30 years. So very proud of that. And people would say, oh, you're too small to be a wrestler. Well, here we are, David whooped Goliath, so what can I say?
You proved him wrong. Bill, thank you so much. An absolute pleasure.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Time is winding down on the Grizzlies' regular season, and barring a complete meltdown, the Grizz will make the postseason once again. Now, that isn't a major deal for a team that has produced a 500 or better record the last 6 seasons. But it is when you consider the team has used 27 different players on the roster and has lost more games to injury than any other team this season, with the exception of New Orleans. And despite the tumultuous last month and a half, the Grizzlies were all smiles last Saturday as they met up with some of their most endearing fans at their annual MVP event at Putt Putt Golf and Games.
How long have you been a Grizz fan?
For 14 years.
Wow. Exciting, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Yes, it's very, very exciting.
How crazy has the last couple months been?
Oh, it's been up and down, but we love it. I'm a true Grizzly fan, but it's been nice.
Talking about a future Grizz girl here? Future Grizz girl. She's been dancing with him since she was a year old.
She dances with them about every 2 games.
Show them your moves. Show them your dance. Let's see you dance.
How crazy is it out there with so many guys on the injured list?
It's definitely crazy, but what I appreciate is regardless of who's out there, they're still giving 110%. And as a fan, that means a lot to us.
Yeah, guys that you know we didn't even know of just a couple weeks ago, they're out there starting.
Yeah, it's a pretty neat thing to see all these new faces come in, and it's a pretty neat thing also to see people that we've had for a while who haven't had opportunities take advantage of them.
You need a bigger car. More leg room. Like a limo.
Zach Randolph, Marc Gasol, Mike Conley, Brandon Wright, and Jordan Adams. Is that A, the starting lineup from the January 14th game against the Pistons, or B, some of the guys that are on the injured list?
That's right. I've never seen this number of injuries affect the team really at any level, and the fact that the Grizzlies have had to continuously go down to the D-League and get injury exceptions from the NBA because you're losing guys for significant periods of time. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, when you figure at this point 27 guys have worn the uniform, you've got 25 different starting lineups. The fact that the Grizzlies are where they are in the Western Conference standings is a real testament to Dave Joerger and his staff.
Has Dave Joerger said anything? Is he going crazy or what?
Well, Dave Joerger cut his teeth in minor league basketball, and in the minors you got guys that are called up, guys that aren't good enough, and in minor league basketball maybe having 25, 26 guys a year isn't really that unusual. So he's hearkening back to his experience in the IBL when he was with the Fargo Moorhead Bees and really cool places like that. So he's drawn on that experience, I think, and it's been helpful.
So what do you attest the fact that we're hanging in there? We're still in 5th.
This is a team that really has good veteran leadership. Matt Barnes is a true pro. Vince Carter's a true pro. Zach Randolph's a true pro. Tony Allen is. And the veteran guys have basically said, look, this is a culture in our locker room. We expect you guys who are coming in on 10 days to play a particular way, and they've responded.
All right. Greg does 5 for the road. This is 1 for the road.
Okay.
Give you some names: Zach Randolph, Marc Gasol, Mike Conley, Brandon Wright, Jordan Adams. Is that A, the starting lineup from the January 14th game against the Pistons, or is that B, all guys on the injured list?
That'd be all guys on the injured list.
All right, this is a little tougher. How many of the guys on 10-day contracts can you name?
Let's see, Xavier Munford, his just expired. Ray McCallum is on his 2nd-day contract, and Jordan Farmar is on his first 10-day.
And the other guy, Stephenson?
No longer with the team. He's off.
Okay, Williams?
No long. Oh, I didn't know if you needed all season long.
Well,
Those are the current
I'm
ones.
kind of catching up here myself.
Yeah, Stevenson signed 1 10-day. Elliot Williams signed 1 10-day. Briante Weber signed 1 10-day. Those guys are no longer with the team.
And Hollins?
Yeah, well, Ryan, we signed a couple 10 days and then ultimately for the rest of the year.
Okay.
It's a long list.
On Wednesday, the University of Memphis will host their Pro Day, and that means Paxton Lynch performing in front of dozens of NFL personnel. We wish Paxton and the rest of the guys well. Monday night is the Men's National Basketball Championship game from Houston, and the Masters begins Thursday. I'm picking Rory McIlroy. And that'll do it for now. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Tony Allen, you look bigger on TV.
Production funding for Sports Files is made possible in part by
Infinity of Memphis has moved to Germantown Road, just half-mile north of Wolf Chase Galleria, and is proud to support WKNO for its quality broadcasting and service to our community. Quality and service? No wonder Infinity of Memphis feels at home on WKNO.